as a man, you're supposed to be this island of excellence, but unfortunately our environment places us in this sea of mediocrity. And we never build bridges to one another so that we can communicate and navigate this sea, but we just stay on our own. We stay on me island and we fight through it until we can't.
Welcome to the What's Your Revolution show, a show for men and the people who love them, where we discuss how men can find and embrace the revolution within themselves, where people can find and embrace the revolution within themselves. I am your host, Dr. Charles Corprew. What's good, revolutionaries? I have not done this in a long, long time. A live show. Like, what the hell? A live show. But we're doing this because we are celebrating 9 years of the What's Your Revolution show. I can't believe that September 17, 2017, Rachel Graham, my forever producer, and I sat in WBOK and I got to interview the great Oliver Thomas on my first episode. You imagine that 9 years ago, Oliver Thomas sitting in WBOK, the start of What's Your Revolution, and here we are now, 9 years later. A podcast, a show, a movement, a revolution. And you've been here with us, and I'm excited for those who have been along the journey with us for the entire time, those who come along in the middle, and for our new revolutionaries, we welcome you tonight for this live show of the What's Your Revolution show with my favorite guest, the guest who actually has the record for most occurrences on the What's Your Revolution show, my man, the Dr. Travis Batts. Boy, I said in one of my posts, I was like, that beard is AI generated.
It's all real. It's all real. I wish I could get a little more magic on it, but yeah, no AI here, no AI.
Man,
Just glad to be here though.
That beard was laying down on that photo, man. Had you just gone to the barber?
I did. I had just gone to the barber and he put some, balm on it, beard balm. I don't
Boy,
even
that
know.
thing was laying down.
Yeah, no, I mean, but now I'm trying to do it on my own. I tried to branch out and let's just say I don't have the success, but I still feel the beard. The beard is something that now when I'm in private practice, people look at and they like, he know what he's talking about. His beard has straggly hair, so that's what it is.
I don't know. I actually don't know if I would agree with that. Like if I like literally, I don't know. Like if I saw your beard, I'd be like, man, like that's what we need. We need a sponsorship for some like beard oils and some beard balm.
Yes.
Yeah. Cause this whole gray thing, bruh. Yeah.
Really, I'm not really down on the gray. I'm cool with the gray.
Yeah.
Like it's just I need the gray. I need the hair to tame down because like when you see a physician and he got a little bit of gray, then you know that he done been through some things, right? You know that this ain't somebody fresh out the gate. It's somebody that's got some weight under his belt. And that's how it is.
Been through some things. Yeah.
Been through some things.
Been through some things. Yeah.
That's what you
We
want.
may have a different definition of that, but I'm just saying. Yeah. Hey, Mrs. Batts, it's great to see you. How you doing? Let's give a shout out to the wonderful queen that actually keeps it moving at the Batts compound. And we won't give up where the Batts compound is.
Don't do that.
Yeah, the Batts compound. But hey, Mrs. Batts, how you doing? Look, for my revolutionaries, if you have not been listening or if you've never heard a show with me and Dr. Batts, like this is usually what we call Revolt and Evolve. It is one of those opportunities for Dr. Batts, who is one of the most renowned cardiologists. And yeah, Dr. Batts, I get to say this because you out of the military now, right? Go look, as Kurt Signetti says, Google me, right? Shout out to JMU Midwest in the Indiana for winning the national championship last night. But Dr. Bass is one of the smartest people that I've ever met in my life. And hopefully tonight, as you will get to see in the conversations that we have with each other, you will get to see that intellect come out as we talk about health, wealth, love, and leadership, what it looks like for us as two successful Black men in 2026, as we still even move through growth and opportunities for ourselves. And what does it look like for you to actually think about what are your big goals and how do you then fulfill them by answering the question that both Dr. Batts and I think is the most thought-provoking question of your life. What's your revolution? I also want you to go make sure that you subscribe to the About That Life podcast, which he is the host, where he talks about a host of things when it comes to your cardiac and overall health. So make sure that you do that. Dr. Batts, as I always say, my dear brother, how are you?
Man, I'm living life, loving it, and just really enjoying this new space. Enjoying. I'm not gonna say freedom because I had freedom
Mm,
before, but now I am unencumbered to some degree, in the sense where there are many opportunities, engagements, attachments that I can start to cultivate and to really delve into that previously it wasn't a no. It just took a whole lot of steps to get the yes. And I
mm,
think something that you taught me last year was learning that powerful word no. And
no.
now because the table is there and multiple plates are on it, I got to decide which plates I'm going to pass up on. And I think
Yeah, yeah.
that's a blessing and an opportunity, and always spending time with you. And again, you gave me those accolades of being one of the smartest people. And again, that is reciprocal. I learned so much from our quick conversation. After you give me the quips that you do, you always enlighten me. So I'm looking forward to this conversation and
I'm
really
looking
moving
forward to it
forward
as
through the year as well.
yeah, I'm looking forward to revolutionaries. You are in for a treat because at some point, Dr. Bass is going to give you some sort of acronym about how you should live your life. And if Corey Doolittle is look, the super fan Corey Doolittle, if he's watching, he will definitely know. Bats, I want to drop down on something that is really interesting to me, and a lot of things I think is important to my revolution is you talk about freedom, and that seems to be like my word. The divine has given me this word, freedom, and you spent 20 odd years in the military, and both of us are well. You're actually younger. Both of us are in the middle stages of our life, and freedom is this. I think as if you're younger, at least I'll say this, for the younger version of me, I didn't think about freedom like I think about it now. How are you thinking about and defining what freedom looks like for you at this juncture, post-military, but now working in private practice? And what does freedom look like for you?
I mean, that's a great question. And it took me a little while. And if you all don't know, retirement from the military for me was probably a 6 to 8 week period where I had to kind of reframe what my day looked like, right? Because for 22 years, I wore the same thing. I knew exactly to some degree what I was going to do. And in healthcare, you get some autonomy, but the processes and systems are already built. Right. Meaning you kind of fall into it and you optimize it the best you can to enhance, to either lower cost, enhance access, and improve quality. That at the end of the day, from a healthcare perspective, but when you start to take a step back, or when I started to take a step back and to look individually and to say, what does that mean for me? It was really, and just to simplify it, the option of choice, right? You say the
Yeah,
option of
yeah.
choice. What does that mean? Yeah. I mean, you have a choice. Like my dad used to say, you have a choice, right? I'm like, no, you don't give me a choice. He said, you can do what I say and like it, or you can do what I say and not like it. But
Right,
you're going to do
right.
what I say. That's not the choice. But now there are all these choices, right? In understanding that choosing uh, a- along those pillars, right? Health, wealth, financial independence, all those things, but they all have to have some synergy. They all have to fit together because, you can have all the knowledge in the world. If you don't have the time, it doesn't make
Right.
any sense. You can
Exactly.
have all the time in the world. And so understanding how do I leverage each of those entities with some degree of equipoise where I can really feel um, just purposeful, right? Every day I wake up and I want to say, okay, what am I going to do today? Whether it's
Yeah.
something to change the world. And I don't want to have to say, okay, I have to ask this person before I can participate in this youth group. I have to ask, and now that's what it looks like. And so that's why last year, what you said to me and not that, was prophetic and teaching me how to say no. I still haven't learned it because there's a whole
Mm.
lot of yeses on my board that
Yeah.
you can't do everything well. And so now is refining what that no is and how to frame that no so that I truly can be free to pour more into the projects
Mm.
that really require hands-on engagement and various things like that. So that's what it is the option of choice. That's what freedom looks like for
That's what
me,
freedom is. I
simply
just want to
put.
pause here for 1 second, Dr. Batts. You saw me turn when you said some word, and revolutionaries, you also will also need your dictionary to actually listen to this conversation with two highly intellectual people. He said equipoise. I've never heard that word. Can you define that, please? Like equipoise. How do you even spell that, Dr. Batts?
Yeah, well, I lost a spelling bee to third grade, so spelling is bad.
Equipoise.
But
What does that mean?
so equipoise is like where you have not so much opposing things, but there can be three, four things, but you find a balance between them. It's a simple definition, right? It's just a way to find balance amongst seemingly opposing entities and they don't have to be opposed. It's just a way to say I need to balance all these four things. And in general, it's tough, right? Because one asks for this, one asks for this, but at the end of the day, you have to find balance amongst those things the same way we do in life, right? You got to balance family, you got to balance personal time. And so that's what that, word kind of lends itself to.
I love that. As I think about it, it probably has the Latin root of equal and position,
Yeah.
and yes, that's
Yes.
right, and putting those together. Thank you for edifying me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Edify. But you talked about the interesting thing is the option of choice, right? Being freedom is the option of choice. I can choose based on where I am. I have the ability to choose, and
Hmm.
our good friend Dr. Elijah Beatty always talks about freedom of place, freedom of time, freedom of money.
Hmm.
That's his freedoms, and we work really hard. Um, I had a goal setting class the other night. And, the goal setting class was moving into how people fulfill their goals by answering what's a revolution. And you know, I was really open about my own goal that in 2 years, I want to be free from trading my time for money. Because I want to be free from trading my time for money, going into some office or going into, I want the choice of saying, this is how I'm going to, you say, this is how I'm going to use my time. This is where my intellect and acumen are going to be used in the most impactful way, um, to determine what and how and where I go to work on my body. And I'll tell this story. I gave my team 2 weeks off at the end of the year. One thing you do, I believe in self care and you know giving opportunities for folks to take time away from the work. And I told my team, Dr. Bass, that I was like, look, in our last team meeting of the year in 2025, I was like, I'm not going to think about you, and I'm not going to be mean. I'm not going to think about you. I'm not going to think about work. I'm not gonna think about you. I'm not gonna think about this build. I'm not gonna think about anything. And I hope that you do the same thing. And I had planned to travel. I planned to go to the Dominican, my favorite spot, but I decided not to go. And I spent 2 weeks at home. And it was the most relaxing period that I had had in a long time. I literally I slept in. I spent, you know, copious amounts of time at the gym. I played a copious amounts of pickleball. I had lunch with childhood friends that I had not seen, and I didn't worry about that. I didn't worry about the time. I got to get back to somewhere. And that in itself, was amazing just to have that feeling of freedom. And I said to myself, okay, I remember now. I want you to remember what this feels like when there's no angst. Freedom is freedom is the absence of angst, and that's what it feels like when, okay, tomorrow when I get up, I know I have an 11 o'clock meeting. Let me work backwards to see how much time I have to get to the gym, get breakfast, get all the things that I need, and get to my 11 o'clock so that I'm mentally prepared to then be the chief programming and operations officer for this very impactful nonprofit. And I'm like, yeah, this is and I keep looking around, and social media paints these pictures of freedom. But I
Mhm.
think the question that I have for you is, as we move through this, is how are you creating, or how are you choosing steps now to get you to a freedom that you can get to down the road? Because I think as we look, people who listen to us, they're wondering, well, how can I get here? How's Dr. Bratz getting here? Dr. Batts, he is a brat,
Well,
right?
I am a
But how's
brat. That is true.
yeah, yeah, how's he getting there?
Well, again, and I hate to sound like a not so much a broken record, but is less about the destination and more about the journey. Because one thing that we learn when we work through what's your revolution is you're constantly revolting and evolving, right?
Constant.
Because
Yeah.
the thing that I thought was free 2 years ago or freedom 2 years ago is different. The thing that I thought 5 years
Mhm.
ago, and I think one thing people unfortunately get stuck on is like today, I was taking care of a patient and we're working through some lifestyle things, right? And making sure she, doing the sleep and doing all these things. But, the patient is just stuck on weight, right? My weight is X. And I said, well, let's look at your composition. Let's reframe what this means. And I think this constant ability to reframe and retake what, and ultimately when she took a step back, she had made so much progress, but she, kind of beat herself up and kind of was just down on herself that she didn't understand, man, she had made leaps and bounds. And I think a lot of times we look at this far off target not understanding that you're not going to get there in one step. You're not
Yeah,
going to get
true.
there. It's like, how do you break this stone, right? It might not be the first hit, it might not be 100, but you just keep pounding the stone. And
That's
so
correct. Yeah.
when I look at what it means for me, it is how, where do I what are my values, and then how do I rank those? And you have to do that first. And so for me, it is how do I spend more time with my family? Period. Right. That at the end of the day, that's it. And so that translates into time. But then there are two other factors that affect how much time I actually have. One, one is my knowledge, and one is money, right? And
Yeah.
so you have to use two of those to get the other. Meaning, if I want more time, I got to be smarter about how to leverage my money to make money for me so I don't have to work. So I'm not trading my time for money. On the flip side, if I want more money, well, now I have to use my time and my knowledge to leverage that skill set to make more money. So you use two to leverage the other. And that will change, right? I'm not always going to be focused on that. I'm like, okay, my kids are at this phase in their life. I want to develop this. So now I'm going to have to take time and knowledge to build a foundation for them
Mhm.
so they can have a legacy. So I think kind of using those as, your guiding post and then switching around how you leverage two to get to one is how I'm approaching it, at least for this year. And
Yeah.
by doing that, it allows me to maintain focus. It allows me to start to track certain things. And then it allows me to truly add value to, whatever I'm targeting. If I'm targeting time, I can truly add value to it because I'm using knowledge and money because I really got to spend that time. And so I think that way we objectify the process in such a way that we can do a self appraisal whenever we need to kind of recalibrate where we need to go.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. Thinking about what do you value? What are your values? And I think often, and this is a hypothesis of mine, is that I don't know how many people have sat down and said, these are my values. These are my core values. And then how am I then living in my core values every day? It's a hypothesis, and I may be wrong. It's a hypothesis. And I think that, for me at the one of the biggest values that I have is community. And, only child, only child. So my friends are everything to me, even at this stage, laughing with my friends. And so how do I then what I saw during that period of time when I had 2 weeks off is that I had and was able to sit in community so much. And that's what brought me joy. That's what brought me joy. And it goes back to this thinking, as you said, is that okay, as my good friend and our friend of the show, Alfred Edmond says, these are our best money making years right now. You know, because what happens, and Arthur Brooks's Strength to Strength books talks about this is the time where our acumen is the driving force for our success. For us as we go, the brain, our intelligence, our fluid intelligence has kind of not fallen off, but it's just plateaued.
Plateaued, yeah.
Yeah, but our crystallized intelligence continues to, because now our brain is like, you've got all this information, and now I can crystallize it. I can crystallize it and then put this acumen out into the world. And what does that mean? If you're doing it well, and the revolution is, think about what you're good at. And this is the time I think that, we're living in, I don't care who you believe in, party that you may follow. There's some things going on that may be causing some strife. Like the ability to go out and buy the things that you could buy in the past costs more. And so I remember in 2011 when I was the concept of what's a revolution actually was given to me by the divine. We were dealing with something similar, crisis, a potential financial crisis or coming out of financial crisis. And Tom Friedman said something so eloquent to me, not to me, but to the entire graduating class. Yes, he was speaking directly to me, Charles Corprew. um, but he said it was the worst time to go out and find a job. We're seeing an economic crisis where if you're looking, all of these jobs, I remember seeing that like so many jobs, so many people, thousands of people were laid off. They were furloughed. If you remember doing
Yep.
the shutdown. But I do also think with the smartness and the ability to accumulate information so fast and then be able to disseminate this out to the world, we have the ability to create wealth. Like you think about that. You have the ability. And so look, so many people are creating wealth by doing things that are antithetical to things that you and I grew up with. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Mhm.
TikTok shop, Instagram, YouTube. People, I mean, the things that people are that I may agree with or disagree with, they are creating wealth by using their intuitions and creativity to create wealth. So I would say to revolutionists, if you're thinking about what freedom looks like from a wealth perspective, as Dr. Bass just said, how are you amassing intellect and knowledge using that from a time perspective to create something? And so I do think this. And so, Dr. Brax, you've now left the military and now in private practice. And I want to dive down into the basis of your work that we've talked about so much is being healthy. And many of the folks that watch the show are Black men. And we've talked about Black men and the people who love us, right? So that's to say, and
Mhm.
this is not just for Black men who are. It is, if you love us and you're around us and you want to support us, what Dr. Bass is probably going to talk about is important to you as well. Like freedom also means that we are free from the abnormalities and maladies that actually conquer or have the potential to conquer our bodies. You're a renowned cardiologist. What do you say to us, about taking care of our bodies at this stage and even beyond? If somebody's 30 listening to the show, what should they be knowing?
Well, I mean, and we can even take it a step back from there because, the beauty of being like a cardiologist that focuses on prevention. And I truly love my group, South Texas Cardiovascular Consultants. Love it. It is a group made up of, and when you think about the heart, they often describe it as, like a house, right? I'm a general
Yeah.
contractor. They're electricians, right? Those are the guys that put in pacemakers and
Mhm.
devices. Then they're plumbers. Those are the guys that do the stents. And I just get to be a general contractor. I get to, try to build the house, make sure the walls look nice, make sure we put up good aesthetics. We do a little yard work every now and then. But at the end of the day, when patients come to see me, whether they've had an event, not had an event, have a family history, concerned about having an event,
Yeah.
I get to take it back to uh, those pillars of lifestyle medicine, right? Starting with mindfulness, exercise, diet,
Yeah.
sleep hygiene, social connectedness, and again, getting rid of risky substances. And I say that so much patients come in and they're like, I'm sleeping well, I'm doing this, but I just can't meditate. I just can't, and I'm like, we're good. We're good. The fact that you're already working through it is a plus. But when you look at prevention, there are levels of prevention, right? So there's primordial prevention, primary prevention, secondary, and tertiary. We won't talk about tertiary, but
What does
primordial.
primordial and tertiary mean? You know, primordial.
you know, you big time
Not like that
PhD.
sounds like an Avengers word.
Hey, the tertiary man. No, so
Exactly.
all
The
right, so
primordial is coming.
let's take a step back. So when we think about risk, right, most people don't think they're at cardiovascular risk until they get in their 30s, 40s, or 50s. But we know from studies done in the 1950s that even as early as 15 years old, we start to see the development of fatty streaks in the aorta. That's a big blood vessel that runs down your body. Well, the
Yeah.
fatty streak is the initial start of atherosclerosis. So even in those young people, from the 1950s, where unfortunately they succumbed to illness or war, and they did autopsies on them, they saw that the early development of the fatty streak was likely a progenitor to long-term cardiovascular risk. So as opposed to waiting until you have hypertension, diabetes, high cholesterol, and then those develop into actual disease manifestations, why not start this process with your 8-year-old, your 10-year-old, or the kids you coach at baseball, having discussions about healthy meal choices, getting enough sleep? Because as you start to plant those seeds, again, it allows for them to understand there is a way. Because ultimately, when you make a choice about your health early, you're making a choice about your life later, right? Because it's a balance.
About
In,
about
in
that
this,
life.
yeah, about that life, right? It's gonna pay back, right? So that's primordial. Primordial means you identify someone who has, let's say, a family history, or now we're even saying an environment, right? There was a new risk model that came out. We used to use what's called an ASCVD risk score, which is great, but now they've said if we add geography to that same risk score, meaning if you
Mhm.
live in one part of
Yeah, yeah, your
the
zip code.
city versus another part, it can change your health risk significantly. The
Mhm.
Association of Black Cardiologists leaned in on this and looked at groups in, Baltimore, the city, and kind of broke it down and said just moving 10 miles, to the east or to the west can change your health outcomes on an order of about 5 or 10 years. So that's primordial. Primary means that you have risk factors, meaning you have hypertension, you are obese, you have these other things. But that means that now you really got to drill down on number one, controlling your risk factors, and number two, making sure you don't develop any others. The next one is going to be secondary, right? You go from secondary means you've already had an event. Guess what? You don't want a second one. So that is
No,
secondary prevention.
no.
So you're still controlling everything, but now you're like, okay, I'm really, really focused. I was focused before, but now I gotta be focused. And tertiary, even though this is a space where you'll see some difference of opinion, but this is where people have had multiple events, and now you're really trying to enhance the quality of life. But I usually tell people, just don't hang your hat on this. Well, let's improve your quality. No, I want to optimize how you live. I
Yeah.
want you to really
Optimal
be
is the word.
impactable. Yeah. And so I think that, when people think about, health and risk, they usually wait. I say, don't wait, start early, right? Start as soon as possible to start getting into the mindset that, health isn't something you wait until you 30, 40, or 50, because by then it's too late, right? You've already kind of built up a lot of that, that negative, cardiovascular risk profile that you got to deconstruct. So, simply put, is start early, and again, be intentional. Right, have a revolution. Right, don't look at what my brother had diabetes, my sister. That don't mean that don't
That
have to be
doesn't
your
no,
your
no.
reality. So
So let's put
That's
this in pra
usually how I approach it. Go ahead.
yeah, let's put this in practice. Folks that know me know that I take care of my body. Or at least I attempt to. I'm not gonna say at least. I work out 5 to 6 times a week. Um, and you, Dr. Batts, you put me through a training session when we were we were in DC, that I have yet to see, that was filmed,
It's
yet
gonna
to
drop.
see.
It's gonna drop. Trust
I
me.
mean, I don't this is what I don't understand, Dr. Batts. Like, I see all these people on your show. We shot an entire episode and it is yet to come out. Was it that bad? But
No, it
I
it was
I
not that bad.
I digress. I digress.
Yeah.
Let's put this in practice. Let's put it in practice. I take care of my body. At 54, I think I'm doing all right. I think, 5 to 6 times a week, pickleball twice a week, in the gym 2 to 3 times a week, running all the things, cardiovascular health. But as I mentioned in one of my posts the other day, I did a world tour, and world tour of ologists, the urologist, the cardiologist, primary care physician, the neurologist, all those things, because I've got some risk factors. And one of the things, because both my mother and father, and the genetics of it all, have heart issue, cardiovascular issues. And so my LP little a is extremely high, which is, yeah,
Mhm.
and you and I have talked at length about that. That is a genetic factor, a genetic risk factor. So one, if you haven't gone to get your LP little a checked, you should. There's nothing that you can really do, and Dr. Bass can talk about this more
Right.
eloquently than I have, but knowing the risk factor from that score, my LP little a is above range. Um, so that was a little scary. Two, the other aspect, Dr. Bass, is that we've had this conversation that for some reason my cholesterol has, my ApoB and my LDL and non-HDL have gone up exorbitantly over the last year and a half. So these are risk factors. These are risk factors
Mhm.
for someone who probably has 11 or 12% body fat, who works out vigorously, who plays at length, has been doing this for years. I have not, ever since a child, play was athletics, and athletics have been play. And so, speak to that. Someone who I'm sure there are people who are listening in right now who have done the same, who have worked out their entire lives, who are not overweight, who don't smoke, who don't drink, but still have risk factors for cardiovascular disease and cardiovascular events. Talk to them right now. And, because that limits their freedom. If that's the conversation that we're having tonight, that is a limiting factor for their freedom. Talk about that.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, you highlight a great point, especially as we prepare to go into Heart Health Month in
Yeah.
February. And so, we could break this down into 3 steps, right? And the beauty of it is you've kind of already gone through all of those steps to some degree, right? The first part is recognizing something that we don't do a great job of is, even though we're in the same family, we don't talk to each other. I
Yeah.
don't tell you what problems I have and you don't tell me, and we just gonna go through this not knowing we're all at risk, but we just go, how did he have that? He looks so healthy. But the fact that you said, hey, I know that, I have I already know what my family has. That's the starting point, having those conversations. Then from there, taking that conversation and moving it to someone that can do something about it, your
Yeah.
primary care provider. If you have a specialist already engaged, great, but go to your primary care provider and say, hey, look, and we'll speak specifically to cardiovascular risk. Hey, I have a risk of cardiovascular disease. I want an LP little a, I want a comprehensive cardiovascular assessment, I want a calcium score, and I want to do everything I can to, number one, quantify what my risk is, number
Yeah.
two, articulate what my long-term risk is, and number three, slow, prevent, or reverse. Right? That's the goal. Slow, prevent, reverse. That's what you want to do. Because if you're able to do that early on, then again, you're going to fall into one of those buckets, right? So now we're at stage 2, right? Getting it to somebody. Now, when those results come back, this ain't the time to be shy. This ain't the time to say,
And that's
well,
the thing. That's the
you
thing.
can exercise, you can do and for you've been doing it, right? So
Yeah. So
the man that go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's one of those things where when patients come to see me and I see that let's just say it's you, someone I have a patient very similar, right? super fit, does everything right, doesn't drink, but his numbers are the numbers. I said, I can't tell you to lose any more weight. I can't tell you to get any more sleep. I can't tell you to stop smoking because you don't smoke. I can't tell you. So every risk, every modifiable risk factor that I would tell you to get rid of, we can't do it.
Yeah.
So now you have to have that tough conversation about, you know, pharmacologic aids, right? And for me, the first time I meet people,
They don't
I
wanna
don't
do
give
it,
them medicines,
especially
right?
especially men. 'Cause
Yeah, no.
you talk about blood pressure medicine, you talk about
Hmm.
statins, you know,
Yep.
look, black men and blood pressure medication,
That's
that's a tough conversation because
yeah.
if you've done your homework and we know about black masculinity
Hmm.
regardless, but black masculinity, right? There are a number of blood pressure medications that will look, will
That would that
that will have some modification.
yeah.
They might modify some
They
things.
might they might reframe your approach to freedom. Yeah, you won't be as free.
Motherfucking
Hey,
freedom, like, hey girl, I'm about to lay next to you.
I'm about to give
Hey,
you a hug.
can
I'm
we
about
just
to
cuddle?
hug you. You about to get hugged up.
That's right,
You
to
better quick.
death.
I'm about to hug. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Can I stroke your hair?
Yeah. But that's the type converse but you still have to have that conversation, right? Because there are options, right? And I think that, when and I will say it is rare that you find a person that has eliminated every modifiable risk factor, meaning their BMI is under 25, they're sleeping 8 hours, they've been able to reduce particulate matter in their environment, which is impossible, right? That's because now we know that particulate matter and pollution contribute to worsened cardiovascular health. You can't do anything about that, right? What you
What
got?
is particulate matter? You keep talking about all these damn big words. Particulate matter. The
Man,
hell?
you told me I could be both. I'm a
That's
little
right.
bit
I
of a
want you to be both.
cardiologist, a little bit, but no. So now
Yeah.
this is something that fascinated me. So when I was in the military and deployed in Afghanistan, I would wake up in the morning and I would know whether this is a day that I could go outside and enjoy myself, or this is a day where I'm moving between buildings fast because it was more than just the smog. It was you could taste whatever was in the air.
You're right.
Now, moving forward, and they had burn pits and all that. Moving forward, the American College of Cardiology kind of leaned in on that. There's a host of different clinical, I won't say clinical trials, but studies. And these studies, again, for the epidemiologists, that they're not perfect. They're retrospective analysis, meaning they look back over populations in areas that had high amounts of particulate matter, meaning, small microns that you breathe in. And we usually think that the lungs are just affected. But what happens is those microns are so small that they can pass into the bloodstream and cause an inflammatory process. And
Yeah.
what's the new smoking for heart disease? Chronic inflammation, right? So it
Yeah.
causes this inflammatory process that creates these issues where people who otherwise, outside of normal exposures, wouldn't be at risk. But now we know that that's a higher risk. Even in the prevention guidelines, they talk about strategies to reduce, particulate matter, air pollution, and those type things as
Yeah.
being contributors to worsening cardiovascular health. So that's
So
the
is this like
science
somebody
behind it.
gets
Go ahead.
lung cancer, but who never smoked, but was in an environment that has deleterious particles, particulate,
Yeah.
particles that could cause
Right. Yeah, and that's what we're realizing, that our environment, and this, don't go buy a hazmat suit or something like that, but our environment,
vaccine,
um,
vaccine.
yeah, our environment isn't as, and I'm not going to say safe, meaning we know that there are environmental triggers that we've yet to find out. And I think we're just kind of scraping the surface of what that means for individuals. This is of particular importance in those that live in urban communities, right? When I say urban, I don't mean it in terms of an ethnicity. I mean it in terms of big cities where you have exposures to all these things versus those that don't. And so when we talk about the social determinants of health, we spoke to this earlier where we talked about geography and zip code and various things like that. We know that because population data says, hey, in this population center, there's a higher incidence of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So that's where, there's certain things you can try to control, you can do your best to control. But in many cases, you have to pick the things you can control, and you can control your weight. You can
Yeah.
control plus minus your blood pressure. I say plus minus because sometimes,
There's
it
nothing.
is
There's
more.
nothing. Look, there's nothing I can do. I've tried every holistic,
Hmm.
and it is only
I
a
know you don't.
pharmacological, and I hate it.
I,
I
I know.
literally look, but it is the only thing that keeps my blood pressure regular because of the genetic
Yeah.
factors,
Hmm.
And you and I have talked, and there's a theory out there, and I know that you have debunked it, but there's a theory about people being salt sensitive
Right.
hypertensives, and the
Right.
genetic aspect that the theory was that our ancestors, because of coming over in the slave ships, the way to live, those who survive was the one who were able to um,
Hold
retain
on to
their
salt.
salt. Yeah,
Yeah.
retain their salt. Now I know that you talked about the debunking of that, so um, but it is still interesting for me. But is that I needed a combination of an angiotensin 2 receptor blocker plus a diuretic. And so
Hmm.
I won't get in, and nor will Dr. Batts get into what an angiotensin 2 receptor blocker is and a diuretic. Go Google that, revolutionaries.
Please do.
Um,
ARB.
yeah,
ARB
yeah,
all day.
ARB. It works in your kidneys. It basically works
Yeah.
in your kidney. And diuretic, basically, the diuretic is basically getting all the salt out of your body,
Yeah.
or as much as it can. Now, you still need salt. Your body still,
Right.
it is a mineral. And so that is the interesting thing, Bats, is if we think about this, is that all of these pharmacological advancements that we say still have impacts on our body. And,
Right.
even though I take a combination drug with a diuretic, I still have to put resources back into my body. I
Hmm.
still have to put electrolytes in my body. I actually have to put, as you've recommended, a tad bit of salt in my water
Right.
and make sure,
Right.
as an athlete who works out 5 to 6 times a week, who is vigorously sweating in a variety of activities. Happy birthday. So, um, hey, man, in a variety of activities that I still have to do all these things. And there's a level of psychological impact that it does have on you. Like, I do all the things right. I don't smoke. I don't drink. I work out. I eat pretty well, but still have these risk factors. And I do want to say this. Now, we did an entire workup, and you talked about a calcium score. And fortunately for me, my calcium score was 0. So my 5 to 10 year risk of a cardiac event, even though with those other things, is lower. It doesn't mean that I'm out of the risk, but my risk for a 5 to 10 year cardiac event are much lower, which makes me feel good. But it also means that I'm gonna keep going. I'm gonna keep pressing. And so, because the conversation tonight is that I want to be free. How do we find freedom with our health? Is that we need to start asking the questions, and we need to
That's
stop
it.
being afraid. You don't know how many calls that I get from frat brothers, friends, people on the streets. Can I stop you and talk to you? Can I talk to you for a second? I know you're on the Western Revolution show. I need to ask you this question. Can we look? Let me pull you into a conference room.
There you go. Let's get
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah. Let me talk to you. Um, but I've had so many conversations, particularly over the last 3 years, about men's health, and we're not having the conversation with each other. We're not having the conversation in community. And all of a sudden, Dr. Charles Corprew seems to be the person, I guess, because I put my business out here in the streets.
You do. You do.
That's my revolution, damn it.
Yeah, it is. I
That's
mean,
my.
but you helping everybody else be
That's
free
right.
because
That's
you're
right.
so
That's how we
freely
see. Put your
sharing. You're
business.
freely
Yes,
sharing. There we
that's
go.
right. Caring, look, sharing is caring, Dr.
Sharing
Batts.
is
I
caring. There we
share my
go.
business out in the streets. Maybe too much. We can talk about that later. But um, I've had a number of conversations about men's health, about erectile dysfunction, about cardiac risks. You know what I'm saying? About taking certain medications or not taking certain or mental health events. Like, why do you think that we as men, and then I'm going to drop it down to black men, don't open up about what's going on or what we need to do with our health, because I feel like if we don't do that, we are never going to be free. We cannot be in a health crisis in a silo.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think 2 points here, right? So the first one is I think as a man, you're supposed to be this island of excellence, but unfortunately, our environment places us in this sea of mediocrity.
Mm,
And we never build bridges to one another so that we can communicate and navigate this sea, but we just stay on our own. We stay on me five me island, and we
yeah.
fight through it until we can't. And oftentimes, by the time we realize that we can't, we've got stage four, whatever. We've in stage this. We've got this because we thought we could do it all on our own,
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
don't talk, right? Because health is something that is a reflection of, I'm not going to say weakness or strength, but it's perceived as, well, all you had to do was X. That's why usually the first time I meet a patient, I try to find out where they are. And a lot of times they feel bad that they had to come see a
Yeah.
cardiologist. Like they
Cardiology.
feel like, man, I should have did this. Doc, I've been trying. No, I mean, I'm here to help, right? This ain't you on trial. This is us working together
But
to get you
everybody's
there.
not
But
Dr. Bath. Some people, look, excuse my language, some
no,
doctors are assholes. Just saying.
well, I guess because, and I tell them, I said, every test outside of, let's say, a bypass, I've had every test that I'm going to prescribe for a patient.
Yeah.
I've had a calcium score. I've had a CT scan. I've had a stress test. I've had a heart catheterization. I've had an ambulatory blood product monitor. I've had so I've been where they are. Now, most times in that position, people are at. So, what do you think your result? No, I want to be the patient, right? But because I've seen it on both sides, and it's tough, right? Because you don't know the outcome, what's going to happen, right? You don't, and even if you've done everything right, you know that there's that 1% chance that something can go wrong. So that's the one piece. The second thing, it speaks to that same point, but I'm terrible with names. Of That's one of my goals this year to get better. There was a guest on your show that talked about, I guess, stories with his son or stories from his father. It was something where a father and a son wrote a.
Ramal Tune, I wish my dad.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Yes. Yes.
And in that book, I mean, think about the relationship between a father and a son, right? These are two male individuals, adults. And then you think about how that book, and the book really talks about, it's different stories, but it really speaks to how they built a relationship through conversation. But the key word there is they had to build it. It wasn't innate, even though you think that father, son, and I hear, how, you and your father
Yeah.
had you all's relationship. I look at my cousin, right? My cousin Corey, he has two twin boys, and the relationship that they have, and how, they'll hug each. And for me, that wasn't something that my dad did. I knew he loved me, but he wasn't a hugger. He might be a fist bumper, but he was. And so even in those relationships where you are connected, there's still that limited conversation because my dad didn't want me to know that he was forgetting things when he started to have Alzheimer's. And
Yeah.
I'm doing a show called Caring for the Caregiver on TAN TV, the African American Network, where we
Mm.
talk about that story. We talk about how my dad's driving me from college. I doze off, and I mean, this is an 82nd Airborne military man. He used compasses, but we're driving to North Carolina. I wake up, we're heading to Minnesota. And I look over at my dad, and there's this sense of fear and weakness in his eyes that he doesn't want to tell me that he doesn't know where we're going,
Wow.
that he forgot where he was going. But
Yeah.
it's that inability to open up. And I think you said it. The first is having the question. The second is creating a conversation. Because if you just ask the question and it stops there and you get the answer, you got to delve deeper. And I think that's what this show does. It allows people to hear us through our conversation, through our banter, through other guest banter, to really delve in. So first the question, then the conversation. And then finally, you got to put a pin there. You got to do something about it. We can
Yeah.
talk all day long.
All day long, and I think
Yep.
that's the thing, the fear of action. I think a lot of revolutions for many of the folks that watch the show is for them to move past their fear. And I think for
Hmm.
for men, and we're talking about particularly for men's health, but I think it's for and I think
Everybody.
the wonderful thing about women is that the power of their networks. Women are fearless. particularly when it comes to their health and gravitating to each other and asking for help and then coalescing together, you know. Men, and particularly black men, like I'm the provider, I'm the protector, I'm the lion of the pride, all the things. But when we get sick, it's like we've never asked for help. And then all of a
Mhm.
sudden, you're like, I don't know what to do. And I remember this might have been more than 20 years ago. I had just bought my first house, Doc, and I got really, really sick. Like I just had a bad case of the flu.
Mhm.
Mm, But I was home alone at the time. And I remember I was like, I got this. I got this. I got this. I can work through this. I've been through this. I couldn't. So I had to end up actually calling one of my friends at 2 o'clock in the morning and say, look, I ain't got this and I really need some help. And she was amazing, came and brought me everything, stayed with me, cooked everything at the time at 3 o'clock in the morning. But if I hadn't asked for help at that point in time, I wouldn't have died, but I would have suffered longer.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key that we have to talk about is that we don't have to suffer in silence.
Right.
We don't have to suffer in silos, right? The more that we can banter together about the things that are going on in our life, our mental health, our physical health, our relationships, our financial. I think that's another piece that we'll get to in a second is
Yeah.
that we are afraid to say I don't have it. In this very in my opinion very materialistic society, where I got to ball out, where it's not cool to be frugal, you know? Look, I think frugal is sexy. But the ability to say at some point in time, especially right now, when somebody says, I'm 54, I'm 55 years old, and I don't got it, we should be able to rally around them and say, our ancestors rallied around each other. We're going to rally around you. Because, you know what I'm saying? Because if you don't have
Yeah.
something and I got it, that's a problem for the community, in my opinion. And I think if we have, the life expectancy of black men is 73, between 73 and 77 years old, right?
Mhm.
4 months from today, I turn 55. So theoretically, you're saying to me,
You
I
got
got
20 years.
18 to 20 years. Oh, hell no. Hell no. Hell no. I'm sorry. On
Right.
average. I can't fathom that. But if we're not talking to each other, if we're not in groups saying, "Hey, how you feeling? What are you dealing with? What's going on? How's your health? What are you taking? How does it make your body feel? Oh, I'm taking this. This because here's the thing, if we're not talking about how drugs that we may be taking are making us feel, we might say, well, this is normal. It might be abnormal. And that fear of conversation around our health is killing us. It's killing us. So I just think that we need to spend more time as my number one value in community and not being afraid to talk about these things because if I hadn't started hanging out with you and Dr. Beatty, I'd have been like, oh, look, cardiologist, smartiologist. I don't know what you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But now
Yeah.
I'm armed with everything that I need to hopefully live the Charles Corprew Jr. life who lived till 93. So that means I got some time.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, and with you saying that, it kind of brings me to this concept in healthcare, and it probably transcends healthcare in other areas, but I know my area, right? So it's the iron triangle of healthcare, right? Meaning that you want to enhance either quality, cost, or access.
Mm,
And you can only do two. right? The same thing holds true here, right? So when, you have access, right? You've got myself, you've got Dr. Beatty, you got all of that. And so your quality is going up. And so in the end, your costs are going to be lower. But many people don't have an access point. Right? Many people, don't understand what good, like how you said, maybe I think this is normal, but it's not normal because their quality of care, quality of the folks that they have around them, or the ability to do those things is limited. And so when you try to balance that, it's really looking outside yourself, right? If you go around the same people, you're going to get the same answers, right? That's why I really like our show to, when folks ask me, hey, watch this. Before you come ask me, here's another resource. Watch that,
Yeah,
then come talk to me. Hey,
right.
come watch this. Oh, you having issues with executive presence? Hey, go, it's a great book, but here, go watch this show. It's the person that's up, so really helping people to learn how to use these tools. But at the end of the day, I like that structure that you built. Question, conversation, act. Because we can apply that to each one of these pillars as we go through it. Because at the end of the so to ask a question shows vulnerability. It
Yes,
does, because
yes,
it reflects that
yes.
I don't know. And most people want to act like they know when they really don't.
They
Ask
really
the question,
mm-mm.
right?
Yeah,
And then,
yeah, go
yeah,
ahead,
go ahead.
ask the question.
Yeah, ask the question. And then secondly, be okay with whatever that answer is, to have that
Yeah.
conversation. And then once you get that, not because and as we transition into finance, this is going to become even more important, right? Because I just saw, you know, maybe my new financial advisor, maybe, right? Maybe, just because I'm still sorting it out because I don't know. I've never been in a place where I needed a financial. You need finances to have a financial advisor.
Yeah,
So, so,
I
so
have I have a wealth manager.
yeah. See, that's the difference, right? So
That's the
I
difference.
need to know.
I need a
So okay,
no, I need a financial advisor.
but that's what I'm
I got a
saying.
I
Like,
love saying that, "Oh, I have a wealth manager."
yeah, no, that's
Then you
but
ain't
it's that.
wealthy.
But that's just it. They building the team.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
building the team, right? So it's one of them things where do I need just not just, but do I need a CPA, or do I need a tax attorney? Do I need an estate planner? Do I need a wealth manager? Do I need a business planner? Right? And I think as people look to level up, it's hard to level up if you can't level out, right?
Mm,
Because if you don't have the people surrounding you to help you lift you up, and then they keep, elevating, because there's no way you're going to know everything. That's why every successful journey starts with the question. And that
what's
question
your
could be
revolution?
something there you
What's your
go, right?
what's
How
your
are you gonna
revolution?
Yeah, how are you gonna revolt and evolve against the historical context of where you are from a financial standpoint? How are you gonna revolt and evolve from frivolous spending, or conspicuous consumption, and whatever you decide to do with your money or funds, right? But it starts with a question. And if your question is, I want to be better, or I want more, I want to have more for my kids, then you got to have a conversation with somebody that knows. Now, this is your
Yeah.
space right here. This is when I met you and you said I'm a venture capital. I had to holler at Siri. What's a venture capitalist? What is Siri? What's
Hey,
venture
Seer.
capital?
Oh, no.
Is he?
Oh, don't answer me right now, Seer.
Yeah, yeah. Don't answer me.
Don't
Let me
don't
figure it
listen to
out. Let me figure
don't
it out.
listen to this conversation, Seer, not right now.
Yeah.
Um, no, it is interesting, and it is interesting to think about asking the question. And Felicia Hatcher, who is the CEO of Black Ambition, Pharrell's venture capital fund, she was always saying that you should ask bigger questions of yourself. What does that look like to ask bigger questions of yourself? And that's why I love the question, "What's a revolution?" But almost it's almost like asking yourself, "How big can I be?" How much money can I really make? And one of my boys, Mark Berger, said, who's a penultimate athlete in New Orleans, we were talking about his regimen of health, and I was like, "Wow, you do a lot." He said, "Because I asked myself, how much healthier can I be? Am I actually really, really, truly dialed in?" And I think that's the question. Um, I'm gonna skip wealth for this evening because I want to get in the next conversation with you. We talk about health, wealth, love. You know, love
Mm,
as a part of freedom, man. And I say this shit. Look, I say this shit all the time. I ain't trying to be outside, bro. I, I
I
look,
ain't been outside in a long time. I don't
man.
know
I don't
what's
even know
out
if I
there.
need to be having this conversation with you, but like this is what I equate dating as a middle-aged man, right? Happy birthday. It's your birthday. So grateful that it's your birthday. Um, Not like Dr. Bass's birthday,
Not my
but
birthday.
yes, not your
Tag
birthday,
no.
but it's yes, they know who they are. Uh, but I equate dating to like, you remember the movie I Am Legend?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I equate dating as. Like,
Whoa,
yeah, like
that's bad.
zombies. Zombies. That's what that's like,
But
you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be inside. I'm trying to be inside. Like, but and board up the windows and
board up the
doors.
windows.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've been a zombie myself. Don't.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to say that I haven't been like running free. Like,
Mhm.
but I got an antidote. I got the antidote, and it worked. It worked. You have been married for a long time, and you've been married for a long time. And why are you looking at me like that?
You said you have been married. You think, damn, you've been married for a long.
You've been married
Woo,
for a long time.
wow, you
Like, wow.
man.
Yes, like, we were driving Buicks when we first met. Some people like, "What
We
is a
ain't have
Buick?"
cell phones.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
You had to you wrote her a note. "Will you
With
go with
notes.
me? Yes or
Check
no?"
yes or no. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Exactly. If you had some advice, if you think about, because having a powerful, and I say that, having a powerful relationship with a partner, um, allows for a level of freedom that many people don't get a chance to either experience or have. E- give us some advice on sustaining a relationship. I think that's a big, because if you can sustain a relationship with someone for a period of time, it it
Right.
it harkens to, in my opinion, a level of freedom, because you look, one, you ain't outside, and clearly you ain't
Yeah,
spending the amount of money that I've spent dating over my dating life. We don't even want to talk about that no
yeah.
more.
Well, no,
Yeah.
and it's interesting that you picked those 2 points, right? Because we know from a financial standpoint, marriage is one of the key, hate to say wealth builders, but opportunities for folks to grow wealth together so you can compound faster. Additionally, when you look at long-term care, particularly for men who are married, however you want to think about it, they live longer. Now, how much longevity they have? No, I'm joking around, but they live longer, right? Because you think about,
They
who's
wife
going to
be
take
riding
care of you. Yeah,
surfboards.
yeah, yeah. I don't. They might be getting just pushed around, but in any case, they live longer, and we make light of it. But I'll start the conversation with an anecdote from a patient I had, and it was a couple that came in, and these are some of my favorite couple. They've been married now for 68 years, married for
Wow.
68 years, right? And so we're finishing our encounter and they do their appointments together. And I said, well, what's the secret to staying married for 68 years? And the
Cialis.
husband, it was not that. It was not that. That came later. That came later. No. So the husband looks at the wife and the wife looks at the husband and she smiles and pats him on his shoulder. And then he says, go to bed with a bloody mouth. I said, what, sir? That's what I said. I said, do I need to have someone leave? And she starts giggling. And then I'm like, what did you say? So he said, go to bed with a bloody
So
mouth. I
many,
said,
so many things come to mind right now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So ultimately, his point was in marriage or in their marriage, he had to bite his tongue a lot, right? It's this concept about not being, reactive, but being responsive. And sometimes being responsive is
Mm,
biting your tongue and not
mm.
saying what you want from an emotional standpoint, right? Because that's the easy thing. But what that does by tearing your partner down, it's only going to reflect on you. And so that's what he said. But when and I don't have the key. I mean, my wife and I have been married 22 years, been together for uh 26, 27 years. Um, and so it- a lot of it is expectation management,
Mm,
your expectation management, because
right,
I can't compel her to do anything that she doesn't want to do. She
right.
can't compel me to do anything that I don't want to do. But it's understanding, okay, I know what her expectations are. I know what I want. Okay, how do I do some of what she needs, if not all, right? And then the flip side, I know she does the same thing. And like you said, we'd had our show where we talked about the easy life and those type things.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
some of it's gonna be easy, some of
Mhm.
it's not, right?
Man,
Some of
if
the things
another
that she
person
does is
said to
gonna
me,
be easy.
"I wanna have a soft life," so do I, damn it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so do
Yeah.
I. I
But
wanna
I
have a soft
but
life.
yeah, when I
Yeah,
come in after working and I just literally sit on the couch, turn on the Kansas Jayhawks and watch basketball and drink a protein shake while I see her doing X. I mean, but at the same time where she, kind of, and it's reciprocal. And so
yeah.
understanding that, I got to be cool with her taking a tap out days. Sometimes she got to be cool with me taking it. She got to be cool with me doing stuff like this, keeping the dogs quiet, keeping the kids, so it's about balance. But I think, again, it's those QCA, right? Question, conversation,
There it
action,
is,
right? It's that
revolutionary.
same breakdown.
Yeah, it's the QCA, there it is, I told you, I
Yeah.
warned you. If you had placed a bet, you would be winning now, the over under on how many acronyms that we're gonna get in the show. The
That's just one.
QCA,
That's it. That's it.
that
QCA.
the
Question, conversation, action. That's it.
question,
And
conversation, action. I just wanna go back to say I like it when you bite your lip. Not you, Dr. Batts, but the person watching this. Keep
go
biting.
ahead.
Just saying.
I didn't know you were gonna take this down the road.
Dang,
I
man, I
knew
just
you
had
were,
fun with it,
but
man.
that's
We've been serious. We've been so serious. But I definitely
no. We've been having some fun. We've been
Yeah,
having
yeah,
some
yeah,
fun.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
it's been
yeah, yeah,
cool.
yeah, yeah. But I think that, what I have learned, and how do I say this? Um, what I've learned, particularly in the latter stage of my journey to be a better man, um, is that you're right, like, understanding your partner and understanding their needs, and really, like, I think my biggest learning is to come with curiosity with things instead of with what the fuck. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like, what were you thinking? Instead of saying, "Hey, I'm curious how you got to this," or "I'm curious what you were thinking when you said this," or "I'm curious what brought you to this action," or "I'm curious." Like, I'll give you an example today. I got a prayer today, and it was out. It wasn't out of the blue, but it was like the second or third that I've gotten, and you know, I was like, because we've talked. I'm very very spiritual. Do I practice a certain dogma? No, but I'm extremely spiritual. Do I pray every day? Yes. Do I believe in my God? Yes. And but I felt a certain kind of way about getting this. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's some family trauma, that
Got it.
I
Okay.
still have to work through. Um, and at first I wanted to say, could you not send these? Because again, this is something that she doesn't know and something that, it is a long-seated family issue. But what I did was like, "Hey, I'm curious why you started sending these." So now I have an understanding of the rationale of
Mm,
why, and now I can be supportive. Now I can understand why, and it was the interesting, and the crux of it was all, I want to share my process with you that leads me to have a better day. You know what I'm
oh,
saying?
yeah.
And so now with that understanding, you know, I pull back and retreat and say, okay, she's inviting me in to her life. She's inviting me in to know
Mhm.
more. And so this understanding that you come with, this curiosity that you come with, leads to a better relationship. And it leads to less angst. And the big lion wants to run in the room and like, "Rah, what are you
Right.
doing?" Ah?"
Yeah. That's the reactive though.
That's
Yeah,
the
that's
react
you
that's You're right.
reactive.
That's
Yeah.
the reactive. But now I was like, "Oh, okay. Well, come here, lioness."
Let's talk about this.
This
Yeah.
and
Let's
put your
cuddle
head,
time.
yeah, yeah, and put your head on my shoulder. Now I understand, and now I can be
Yeah.
supported. I think that's the biggest thing, and I try to be curious about a lot of things. I'm not perfect,
I don't think
yeah,
anybody is.
yeah, I'm not perfect, but I do know, one, a healthy relationship provides a level of freedom that if you're not in a healthy relationship or you're outside, I don't believe that you can be free because you're navigating so many things. And this is just my opinion. You're navigating so many things. And don't get me wrong, there are people who find freedom in being outside. I don't, right? I don't. What I found is, and I was talking to a friend of mine. I found that there was such an urgency to try to find my person that I had lost myself. That I had lost myself, and that loss of myself was also a loss of my freedom.
Mhm.
And I say to you, all revolutions, if you're out here, if you're dating or you're figure your, it's easy to say to figure yourself out, figure your shit out before you move so fast
Somebody.
into, yeah. Because I had an urgency. I kept waking up in the middle of the night. Well, damn, it's been 9 years. It's been 7 years. It's been 8 years. It's been 9 years, almost 10 years since I had a relationship. And I fucked up the last relationship. We know that.
Yeah, no, we talked about that.
Yeah.
We talked about
But
it.
it's like
Yeah.
now there's this urgency as I get older to be in something. And now instead of attracting the person, you're trying to grab, well, I say you, I
Pull.
was I
Mhm.
was trying to grab at things that weren't really good for me. And
Mhm.
so what that did was create heartache and pain and all of the things and the questioning. But when you get in, and from the outside and you sitting, you sipping on your ginger tea, you know what I'm saying?
This ain't too bad.
This ain't too bad.
But I think, there's a and for me, it hasn't been, but in talking to my friends that, as you colloquially say, are still outside, right? There is a desire to push away from redundancy. There's a
Mm,
desire to push away from sameness, in the sense where they want the variety. Whereas when you think about variety, and this is me listening to way too much stuff, like I have this thing I do with my wife, is I say, I try to reduce the amount of decisions that I have to make in a day.
yeah, yes,
Like I
yeah,
was arguing about, they changed something on the phone where now it's 4 swipes instead of two. And she said, that's like so first world. I said, well, no. I mean, because if I do that action 1,000 times, now I'm doing that action 4,000 times over that time. And so we don't think about these micro actions as being things that take away from our time, that take away from our freedom, that take away from our money. The same thing holds true in our relationship, right? When you are not in a stable relationship, you are, looking, you are, okay, what version of me do I need to be for this? Okay,
yes,
you meet, you
yes,
go through
yeah,
that whole thing. Okay, what version? Okay, I got to meet this, and again, I'm far removed from it, but I can remember. I can think back. I remember the time. I can remember, right?
man. Michael
And
Jackson is having, look. Sidebar. Michael Jackson's having a comeback. Everybody's, you know what I'm saying?
yeah, no,
Yeah,
I mean, it's timeless. But I remember, and it was like you said, it was pulling, it was shifting, it was moving, it was planning, it was okay. I go here. I mean, and it was a lot of thought put into multiple steps, and things had to line up.
yeah,
Whereas now I know, hey, where you at? Oh, you getting your eyebrow, nail, whatever's going. Okay, bam. Okay. Oh, text me this. Oh, pick this up. Okay, cool. Like you kind of know, and you get into a rhythm, and things just start to move, right? You can now start to focus, put your energy somewhere else,
yes,
because at least that's cruise control. You don't have
yeah,
to worry. And the flip side, now I think we'd be remiss if we didn't and I haven't experienced it. I'm blessed, but I know there are people that have built, this life, moved along, and then someone says, you know what, deuces, I'm out.
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah,
do you come back from that? How do you, as you've built this structure? And for me, like I say, I'm blessed and I'm grateful, and I pray, to God every day that I can still maintain, manage, and navigate. But
yeah.
for those people that are in those spaces, what I know with your extensive background, how do because I don't know. Like I had a patient. I'm treating him for a heart condition, but we spent, he's got a standing appointment with me probably every 2 weeks because he been
I
married
mean,
for 42 years, and
he just need to talk.
he just yeah, everything's controlled. He just like, "Doc, I don't know," and we go through it, and we pat him on the back. I get my but I'm not equipped for that. So how or what tools or skills or research? I don't know. So, do you have any from a psychological perspective or anything like that background to help people through that type of a loss? Because I think there's some people that are listening to the show that thought they had their person, then their person for either voluntary or involuntary is gone.
Yeah,
And now
yeah.
they have to reframe
That's
normal.
that's a great question. I think in like 18,000 shows that we've done together, this might be the first time you've ever asked me a question, Dr. Bags. I just want you to know that.
My bad.
I'm just playing.
My bad.
It's a great question. Um, and I'm only I'm speaking as Dr. Corprew, like the psychologist, because
Yes.
um, I haven't had I haven't been married, and I think about my mother who was married to my father for 57 years. The day he died was the day he died was the first day she had ever lived alone in her life. You think about that. I think about my dear friend and sister Maxine Long McNair, who lost her husband, at 55, who was, one of my closest friends. And I mean, these are things that happen, or like you said, people get divorced. I have so many friends who have gone through divorce. I've dated women who've gone through divorce. And what I would say, in my opinion, I would say is my opinion, is that you have to start with yourself. Like everything, I think at the core, the revolution begins with you. Nothing else can happen without you doing the self reflection around who you are now and who do you want to be, and then what's the work in the middle that has to happen for you to be. And again, having a conversation with one of my good friends today is just like, you're going to be lonely, you're going to experience the pain of loss, when something happens. But we go back to my first core value. How can you marshal your community around you in those early stages of loss? And I think that's really, really key, because it's often that some people will go and retreat and say, well, you know what, and for some that's not bad. You need to retreat, but some people retreat and they shut out the world. They shut out
Hmm.
the world, and the community is the thing that will bring you back, because oftentimes we will lose ourselves in our relationships. And that is one thing for me that fortunately for me, I've never done, because brotherhood means so much to me that I'm not going to lose my friends because I'm in a relationship. And I think when you get out of it, or you have lost, you must move one, do the self-awareness work around, like, okay, I'm going through loss. I'm grieving. Grief is a thing. And then where do I want to be? And then what's the work? And then how do I marshal the community around me to help myself get there? As we talk about this, Sean Dove said, you got to find your midwives.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Yeah, you're birthing your ideas out in the world. Right now, you're birthing a new version of yourself out into the world, and you need your midwives. And I think that the biggest thing, and I know women are really, really good at this, especially some of them, is saying, okay, these are the boundaries that I'm going to set for myself, and these are the boundaries that I'm going to set for other folks that want to enter into my life. And I didn't have boundaries. I mean, you know, I literally woke up at like 3 o'clock this morning, and for some reason I just started thinking about my dating life. particularly over the last 10 years, and realizing that I never set hard boundaries for myself or respect for myself, and then I didn't set boundaries for people that entered into my life. And go ahead.
Think that, and again, I know the folks on the show are gonna say, but I think men and women are different than that. Like, we're wired to, you know, expand and conquer.
Mhm.
I mean, that's just it. Whereas women are wired to, create a space that they like, build it out, allow the people in that they want, don't allow the people. They build the home, we find the land. I mean, just
Yeah.
that is how, not to make one good or one bad, but just saying that, I can't remember that I necessarily. I mean, once I got married, of course, you had boundaries, but when I thought about, what I wanted, what I didn't want, how it would work, and those type things, I was probably more open, right? Because I had to keep an open mind to what was there and different things. Whereas I think um, women, and I can't speak for women, but just the ones that I know, I'm not saying they got a list, but they kind of know. They have the ability to be a bit more perfunctory about their process, and I think because of that, it allows for this. It has to be X. Whereas for us, it's like, what, we going out there, we doing, we
Yeah, no.
outside, we
Yeah,
getting,
we outs I was
y-
outside. I
yeah,
was
yeah.
outside, but I mean, that process of getting to this, being inside, you know, and now looking back and now doing, as we say, an autopsy of it all.
Hmm.
Um, it's like you didn't set boundaries. Like you didn't allow yourself to pause. Like you went from thing to thing to thing to thing without pause because like I said, there was this sense of urgency that I had,
Hmm.
you know? I don't want to be alone. I don't like being this bed is cold, and it
It's
was so
cuffing season. I mean,
it's
it's
cuffing
cuffing season.
and it was so funny, Dr. Bats, because people think that I had it better, much better than I did. They'd be like, "I know you out here. I know you." Look, I'm like, I sleep alone. My bed is cold. You know what I'm saying? And it was, just a very interesting time. And I realized that if I had been really careful instead of careless and really took the time to pause when things ended. I ended them or someone ended it. I took the time to pause and reflect instead of saying, well, let me jump on this or let me go on the next date or let me try to see who's the next person, I can get with. I would have been better off. I would have been, and that's hindsight. I would have been better off. And and so I think this isn't me espousing. This is me answering the question. Me
Yeah.
espousing that if you are having to deal with the loss of something, take time, and I see friends who have lost and don't take the time,
Hmm.
and the things that they allow into their lives, and then all of a sudden they were like, "Damn, why did I do this?" Because you hadn't really done the work to really
Right.
understand it, time, like, we need time, we definitely need time. Look, we've been doing this. We've been doing this for
Yeah.
almost an hour and a half, man. And look, we could go for hours. We can go for hours. Yeah, we could go for hours. Look, I just want to say thank you for being a part of this journey, my journey. What's
Yeah,
your
no problem.
revolution's journey? To think that 9 years ago I started this and in a small room in a radio station, that was probably 100 years old, it felt like. But I mean, I always need to give a shout out to Jazz and, Susan Henry and Rachel Graham and Oliver Thomas for being my first guest. And for so many of the guests that have come after that point, so many of the guests that have poured into this show, and people who have become super fans of the show who read every book like that is espoused on this show and think about what their revolutions are and put them into practice. I keep thinking that, God gave me this to put out into the world. This is my memoir or my love letter to the world that was given to me. And I've been writing this love letter to the world for the last 15 years to think about that I've been asking, "What's your revolution?" This love letter, my gift to you that was given to me, asking this question, like, and it's not bad. It's not like a simple question. It's not a simple question. Some people don't understand this. So let me just drop down this one step. Some people don't understand it. What do you mean? What's a revolution? Revolution is cataclysmic change. That's what it is. You think about the people who have given up their lives. Think about what's going on in Iran right now. It's crazy. People are giving up their lives because they're tired. They're tired of living under tyranny. And if you move that down to the most micro level, revolutionaries, ask yourself, are you tired of the tyranny that you're facing every day in your life? Are you trading time for money and you hate it? Are you in a relationship that doesn't feed you, but you're so afraid to get out because you don't know what's next? Are you sitting in a job, where all of your intellect is being wasted, but you say, if I go out on my own, I don't know. There's this fear.
Mhm.
If you can ask the question, what's a revolution, and answer it, and then go through the steps, you can move out. It is cataclysmic change in your life that will lead to something greater. I say every goal needs a revolution, and every revolution needs a revolutionary. That's you. That's you. You're the one. No one else can fulfill this. You might bring other people along. I brought Dr. Batts along. I bring my people along, right? I bring my midwives with me. I've let go of so many things and I've brought in. But that's the thing around revolution. It's not something easy. It may be the hardest thing that you're ever going to do. But if you don't ask, as Dr. Batts said, ask the question, you're never going to know. You're never going to know. So if you need help thinking through how do I let go of the tyranny of my life and how do I answer this question, I'm here. Dr. Batts is here. Schedule some time with me. Charles at whatsyourrevolution.com. Go to the website, see what we're doing. Because I promise you, if you can answer this, if you can set a big goal in your life, something that scares you, and then say, how do I get there? What do I need to change? Your life is going to change. Your life is going to change. And I'll tell you, they were like, okay, well, what's your revolution for this year? I told you that in 2027, December 31st, I'm tired. I'm not going to trade time for money. And so what's the revolution? What's the revolution? My revolution is to stop believing that the people in the empowerment space are better than me. That's the thing. I need to get over that thought that someone who's been doing something for 9 years, who's had an impact, can be just as good or better than folks already there. Because if I do that, if I have that belief, right, I'll move towards this. I have the means to be in front of people. I'll create the wealth where I can stop trading time. And then all of a sudden, as you said, I've got options of choice. What do we choose to do? What do we choose to do tonight, Dr. Batts? What we do every night. Try to take over the world. So
That's what it
revolutionaries,
is.
yeah. Dr. Batts, thank you for spending this time with me tonight. Thank you, revolutionaries, whoever was out here listening tonight. Thank you for spending some time with me. If you were here from the beginning to the end or some parts, we thank you. We thank you. Dr. Batts, always I give you a closing thought.
No, but as you said again, thank you for the opportunity to share in this capacity. And simply put, again, I've got my new motto, right? QCA. Ask the question, create a space for conversation, and then act on what you learn. You can apply that to whatever else you want to do, but ultimately, whether you're revolting and evolving or mad and want to do whatever, remember to take those 3 steps before you can react. you got to respond. So thank you
Yeah,
again for having me. I'm looking forward to this year as well. We got some things coming down the pipe, and I'm
yeah,
sure I'm going to make sure to keep you apprised to what those are.
yeah. As I said, go check out the About That Life podcast with Dr. Batts, the award-winning show, and Dr. Batts is moving and shaking in the world. As I say it always at the end, revolutionaries, I love you. I love you. I love you. Make 26 your year that you fulfill your revolution. We'll talk to you soon.